Back again with another episode of the A Game Show with MIAA Commissioner Mike Racy. Sir, as always, a pleasure to be joining with you and talk a little bit of spring sports and the future of NCAA. But first, I want to send my sincere condolences to you and your family. You posted it a couple of weeks ago now, your mom's passing. It's a very hard time for your family, but you're in my thoughts and prayers, and I'm sure a lot of other people as well.
Well, you're very kind, and thank you, Chris. And yeah, she passed away at age 80. Had a great life, and we had a wonderful weekend of celebrating that life with my sister's brother and extended family. But I want to thank everybody around the league. I heard from really folks all over the country reaching out and offering condolences and letting me know they're praying and thinking about me and my family. It means a lot to hear from so many folks and friends and acquaintances around the MIAA in Division II. And, Chris, I look back, it's been 10 years now since I left the NCAA, but, that was one of the reasons that I left. My dad had passed away. My wife's father had passed away. And, we were living in Indianapolis, and I had a great job, but I didn't want to go through that again. Not seeing my mom as often as I wanted to, and that was one of the best decisions I ever made in my life, to come back closer to Kansas City, to be able to be around her as much as I have the last 10 years. And things work out. I left a great job, and I landed another great job being the commissioner of the MIAA, but certainly, made that move to be closer to her, and so glad my wife and I made that decision 10 years ago.
Absolutely, like you said, you're getting phone calls, messages from people all over the country. You've met a lot of people, and I'm sure, like me, that they hold you in high regard and just want the best for you and your family. And like I said, we're all thinking of you and praying for you and your family during this time. And people talk about sports kind of being that escape from maybe things going on in our lives. And we'll talk a little bit of sports today too. Spring MIAA championships. It's weird that we're already here. We just got done with
the year. Really has flown by. It's crazy how quick things went.
And it feels like just yesterday we were at Municipal for everything, and then it was a wild March for a lot of coaching changes for across the MIAA, new coaches coming in as well. But start with spring MIAA championships. Golf finished up, baseball, softball gearing up, ready to go. There's outdoor track season as well too. We have so much more going on as well. Just overall spring MIAA championships this time of year.
Well, we're taping this on Monday, and our weekend got wrecked with weather. We've got a tennis match going on this morning, and also a baseball game that's going to get started here in a couple of hours. And the results of both of those will help us get the women's tennis bracket finally released, and then also the baseball bracket. That baseball game will decide the order for the 7th team and the 8th team in our playoffs. But yeah, you're right. We finished up men's, women's golf. Men's golf here in Kansas City at Shoal Creek. Women's golf was in Bolivar, Missouri. The men's side, Missouri Southern won a championship for their coach retiring, and then on the women's side, UCM had a great performance. We'll get started this week in Edmond with tennis and softball, and then next week baseball, tracks in between there. So a lot going on. But Chris, I'm real proud of our conference. We continue to look for ways to find quality championship sites. We want our conference championship to be a very special memory for these student athletes. And when you look at a place like we're competing this week in Edmond, Oklahoma for the men's and women's tennis championships, at the Edmunds Center Court. There's not a better facility in the Midwest that you can play collegiate tennis, and we get to roll in there and have two conference championships. So these are the things that we work hard on to find these type of quality venues, and we want our conference championship to be different than what our students experience during the regular season, and we believe help prepare them for success in the NCAA tournament.
Hopefully, we'll see quite a few spring sports student athletes in NCAA competition. I know golf side, it's already been announced quite a bit there too, but a lot going on across Division II. We'll get to the NCAA as a whole here in a minute, but there's a lot going on across Division II as well. Not expanding the Division II football playoffs. I know you'll go into this a little bit more. If you will, elaborate on kind of the decision the strategic planning and finance committee made with that.
Yeah, that news came down about a month ago. The strategic planning and finance committee, and that's a new group in the new reorganized NCAA Division II structure, and they obviously have a lot of authority, a lot of responsibility related to the division's budget. And they made the decision a month ago that even though the money's there, the money had been allocated by the championships committee specifically for expansion of the football bracket. The decision to expand the bracket, supported by all 15 Division II football conferences, and it's hard to get 15 conferences to agree to anything. We've got unanimous support to grow the bracket, but the Planning and Finance Committee ruled that the action would be out of line with the division's triennial budget. So on a technicality said, well, everyone wants to do it. We've got the money to do it. And it'd certainly be great for Division II football student athletes. But our process won't allow us. We have to stay true to this 3-year budget. And the football committee had not put that forward as a recommendation by the deadline that the football committee needed to do that. And so the Planning and Finance Committee said, we're sorry, but, on a technicality, we're not going to be able to do that. And it's really disappointing, Chris. The new structure was intended to be designed to be, a little more fluid, a little more nimble, a little more of an ability to adjust and be flexible. Certainly that's what President Baker has been talking about since he took over, and preaching to the structure as well as the staff. Let's be a little forward thinking. Let's be a little flexible and progressive in the way we do the business for the NCAA. And to me, this is not a healthy decision for membership in Division II. Division II is the only division that is stuck with this triennial budget, and it's good for planning. It's good for having a long range outlook for expenses. But in today's the nature of today's college athletics, Division I has gone back to an annual process. I think Division II is every 2, or Division III is every 2 years. Division II needs to be more nimble, more flexible. The times demand it, that these type of critical decisions that have such a direct impact on membership need to be adjusted and need to be whatever policies stand in the way, those need to be fixed, because this is something that was important to the MIAA and other football conferences all around Division II.
So in this regard, when is the next possible time that it can be expanded? Because every 3-year budget. So what year is it right now in the budget?
Yeah, this is the start. So we're talking getting it in the process in a couple of years to finally be approved. So yeah, we're gonna miss out on 2 or 3 championship cycles of having another deserving team being in the Division II football playoffs, going from seven teams in each of the four regions to 8 teams in each of the four regions, getting rid of that bye week. It's frustrating, Chris, that we've got the money to do it, we've got the support to do it. It's the right decision. It's an important sport. We've talked how different football is than every other sport. It's not more important than any other sport, but it's certainly different than any other sport on our campus. And having the ability to grow that sport and having it denied or declined because of a technicality doesn't seem to be the right thing for Division II to be doing.
We'll get into this part later when we talk about the NCAA as a whole. So I'll say that for them. But Division II leadership potentially organizing a think tank next fall. Is that right in line with stuff like this, where when being flexible and opportunities like this come about, that action can be taken quicker?
Well, I would hope that the think tank would have as one of the items they think about is the current Division II budget process and the triennial budget and exceptions to that. And I would hope they would get into that. I think it's a healthy sign. We've created the Division II Football Alliance to have a group that can think big. Where we have presidents and commissioners and ADs around the table, and hopefully that's what this group does. That thinks about not the way things are, or how do we go back to the way things used to be, but where do we need to go? And hopefully a think tank can do that. I caution the division as they put that think tank together to make sure that the representation around the table appropriately represents the division. And what I'm talking about is that that group, that think tank needs to have a majority of institutions around the table that sponsor the sport of football. And if they don't, they're really not representing the division as a whole, where we do have a majority of conferences and a majority of institutions in Division II that sponsor football. That needs to be reflected in this think tank. And my hope is that it will be. Each conference has been asked to nominate a president, an AD, an SWA, a faculty rep. The representative for each conference will not be chosen by the conference, but will be selected by the Division II Administrative Committee. And I guess that's okay as long as they make sure they have a majority representation of football schools as part of this group.
I think this kind of brings us to the entire NCAA conversation too. We see what's happening with the Power 5 Division I level, where there's talk of a West region, Midwest region, basically creating what is already there conference-wise, but by regions of the country. What happens if that takes place? What happens to the rest of Division I? What happens to Division II, Division III, and so forth? But there's a lot of, I don't say more questions, because we talked about this for the last 2 years, that the NCAA is changing, and it feels to be going to be changing here in the next few years, not 10 years down the road. From your perspective, where is it at right now? Because it's not going back to the way it used to be at all.
No, and that's what I think a lot of leaders in the NCAA are realizing it. I think Greg Sankey had a quote recently about we're not going to go back to the way things used to be, but we also don't need to continue to live with the way things are right now. And I'm paraphrasing his quote, but what he means is we need to get busy trying to fix this of what we want college athletics to look like. Albert Einstein has a famous quote, Chris, that he said, life is like riding a bicycle. In order to keep your balance, you need to keep moving. You can't just ride a bike by sitting on top of it. You need to keep moving. You need to You need to have a direction, and that's what I think the NCAA is trying to figure out. Not where the direction is, but how do we put together the right people that can make some decisions about what that future direction of the NCAA is. And I guess that's where I would again caution kind of where we're at is that President Baker has come out with his Division One plan. There's some proposals being shopped around about a new super division or super league. All of these things are great because they are trying to initiate conversations about change. But what's missing is those cross division conversations that I think need to take place. There's no group that's been organized to talk about the future of the NCAA that allows representatives from Division III, Division II, and Division I to all be together. When the NCAA in the past has gone through historic governance and constitutional changes, those were the type of groups that were put in place. We just celebrated 50 years of divisional governance, Division II, Division III, the Division I structure. That took about 3 years to create, and it took about 2 or 3 false starts of proposals or suggestions that came forth that got defeated. But they were being looked at by a broad group that had representation from all 3 divisions. And I think we need that because I think what we're going to eventually end up with is, a model for the highest level of Division I that continues to have some of the things that we see now, including NIL and maybe some sort of a pay for play or employment model, however that gets classified. But we need to get busy talking about all of the 1,100 or so schools left over that want to be part of an educational model. And some of those are in Division I right now. So we need to think about how all of those schools are reorganized. And I don't think it needs to be under a Division I, Division II, Division III umbrella. I think we have an opportunity to really rethink the way that the NCAA as an education association organizes the 1,100 or so schools that will be committed to a scholarship or a need-based aid or no financial athletic scholarships under some sort of an educational system. And the only way we get there is by having a group where there's representatives from all 3 divisions that can begin to talk about what the future of the NCAA is.
Again, hypothetically, with everything we don't know, would that move faster if the Power Five or the big, Power Fives decide to do their own thing? Would that make the rest come together faster if that plan's laid out? Or do they need to have, in your opinion, the Power Fives with everybody else say, hey, this is what we're doing. We're leaving, so to speak. Now you guys can figure out what you guys want to be, like you said, in the educational model.
Yeah, it could. That could be the thing that that spurs quick activity on that front. I think that's what President Baker has said. That as it relates to his project Division I, where he's talking about kind of a new super division for the top level of resourced or financed school in Division I, and some of the requirements that they would need for that type of a exclusive club, and what those membership expectations are related to player trust funds and things like that. His opinion is, let's get that done first, and then everything else will kind of fall into place. and I guess I would offer we can do both at the same time. We can have those discussions taking place at the same time we're talking about, okay, what does the rest of the NCAA look like? Because not every Division I school is going to be part of that. They're going to be, schools that have a lot more in common with schools in the MIAA that are in Division I now than they have with the Big Ten or the Big 12. So, let's start to think about what a reimagined or reorganized NCAA looks like for all those other schools. But you're right. Certainly, if the top level of Division I, figures out what their future looks like, and does it, sooner rather than later, that's gonna help all of this. The complicating thing about their pace is all of the lawsuits, and the
Right.
litigation and the lack of assistance or activity, at the congressional level. Continued continued activity by state attorney generals and different NIL laws state by state. So all of those things complicate the pace that the top level of Division I has in trying to sort through what their future looks like. But yeah, it's complicated. It's messy. I don't have all the answers. I don't really have any of the answers other than I think the process deserves a working group, a task force, some sort of a appointed body within the NCAA that has representatives from all three divisions that can be talking about the future of the NCAA.
I'm sure this summer will be pretty busy with those conversations. As it's a downtime for all NCAA sports, but that's usually when conversations pick up as well. Your summer plans for the MIAA, quite a bit. You sent me a few of them here. It's going to be a busy summer once again, and you have Football Media Day on here, which is already telling me that we're only 4 months away. So there we are.
Well, we're excited about football this year with some big non-conference matchups, and we'll have Football Media Day again in July, and we do that in Kansas City. We do that in person, just like we do for Basketball Media Day. We want our coaches to come together and have that big time feeling and celebrate who we are and what we do. And I think that's what makes the MIAA special. But yeah, we're this summer. No rest. We'll be announcing here soon an extension on our headquarter lease with Hy-Vee Arena. A lot of great things going on here around Hy-Vee Arena in the West Bottoms in Kansas City. It's a great home for our conference office. Gives us a lot of visibility and recognition. So we'll renew that. On the mental wellness front, we'll be launching this summer the first environmental survey for NCAA student athletes in the MIAA conference. We'll be doing that with our partners at Hollis Miller Architects, where we'll dive into issues about space and where student athletes gather and some easy changes that schools can make that will enhance the learning and gathering environments for our student athletes. We'll take a look this summer, Chris, at our MIAA transfer rule and whether it's time with everything else going on in D1 and D2 that we might need to remove that restriction or relax some of those restrictions. And then we'll also be getting the first report from our new technology task force and a lot of changes that the NCAA has recently approved for a number of sports on the technology front. Baseball pitch clock, the ability to have tablets on the basketball bench, the communication from press box to sideline, in football. A lot of things that we're looking at and trying to make sure that we're ahead of the curve and doing things the right way in the MIAA. So we'll get that report this summer as well.
Going to be a busy off season, so to speak, for the MIAA, and I'm sure the NCAA and everybody in between. So MIAA Commissioner Mike Racy, thank you for the time as always, and spring championships underway.
Yeah, Chris, great to see you. Thanks for all you do for the conference office and our student athletes, and we'll catch up at some point this summer.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.